I thought this horse possibly could have first written on him, which is where really, to me, that was the frustrating part. This was the long shot, the horse sitting at 20-1, 20+1 that I thought that you'd be able to add on top of a Superfecta, on top of a trifecta, if you really wanted to burst the bubble of value there and try and make a big hit on Kentucky Derby Saturday. With him scratching, it sucks. Not happy about it, to be honest.
This is VSiN at the Track. Now here's your hosts, Mike Somich and Aaron Halterman.
Welcome in your VSiN at the Track. I am Mike Somich. He is Aaron Halterman, and it's been a year in the making, Aaron. It is finally time for the Kentucky Derby episode. That is right. We'll go over the race in totality here toward the end of the show. Got a couple other races we want to preview as well. We're going to go through some news. We got some happenings here over at Churchill Downs. But before we get into all that, Aaron, on your side, how are we feeling here 2 days out as the news starts to roll in on the Kentucky Derby? What's your overall take on the race and confidence in the race?
Oh, I feel tremendous, man. This is great. Celebration of horse racing. This is so much fun. But like I said, we're very popular this week. 1 week a year we're popular, and it's been great. No, it's been a lot of fun. I hate hearing scratches, and I always, feel bad for connections and stuff like that. But hey, as we get closer, I think there's 2 or 3, 4 horses that got a good shot to win. I think we're going to structure bets around those horses and then hope for the best. So I feel great, though, coming into the show.
Yeah, we'll get to today's scratch in a second here. Obviously affected me a little bit more than affected you. So we'll have to talk about how that is going to change up kind of how I am playing the Derby. Like I said, we'll get to that at the end here. We're going to talk about the Old Forester Turf Classic as well as the Churchill Downs Stakes, both Grade 1 events from Churchill on Saturday. Excited to welcome in Mike Beer to the program as well from Daily Racing Form, someone I have hung out with at Saratoga before, so excited to have him on the show here. He, like me, likes to look for long shots. Looking forward to asking him about his thoughts around the Oaks and the Derby. Of course, the questions and comments. Yesterday's episode, if you haven't watched it, go back, check it out over there on VSiN at the Track. You can find it on YouTube, wherever you find your podcasts. It has all of the picks for our Kentucky Oaks races, as well as best bets for that Friday card. So make sure you check out that episode today, obviously focusing on the Kentucky Derby. All right, Aaron, let's jump into the news. And we'll start here in the Oaks because I want to have a little more time to talk about the Derby aspect of this versus the Oaks. Unfortunately, find out Ballerina out of the Kentucky Oaks today. We talked about her yesterday when we were going through the show. She was a horse that I think a lot considered would be close to, if not the favorite in this race, maybe a month and a half ago. Things have changed. She was 12-1 on the morning line. Wasn't a horse I was going to use because of the pace. Was one you were a little more interested in. How does this adjust your thinking on the race?
It doesn't really adjust it much. It was a horse that I had said on our Oaks show, boy, I'll be kind of mad if she wins because I've liked her and I'm not going to use her in the Oaks. And so it didn't adjust what I did much. I will say this, we're losing some speed horses as we keep going on these scratches. And so maybe the pace isn't going to be quite as fast as what we saw, but we still have a few really fast horses in the race. So in a weird way, and I don't think I would have said this 4 or 5 weeks ago, but Ballerina scratching out of the Oaks, it didn't do a lot for my handicapping one way or another. Still kind of have on the same horses, still kind of the same outlook going into this race.
Yeah, it was similar for me. To your point, I think that the biggest part of this scratch is the pace aspect of it. I don't think it's going to make it a slow pace, but anytime you take out a speed horse, obviously you have to adjust your numbers at least a little bit. I was not going to use her in any supers, any tries, anything like that as a horse that could hang around. So not a big betting aspect adjustment for me. However, again, to your point, like we're not drawing in speed when we're going to the also eligible list here. We're drawing in horses that are not going to be part of the pace factor. So Ballerina out of the Oaks, no big adjustments, no pick adjustments is what I know most people want to hear. Still going with the same horses in the Oaks. Again, if you want to find out what that is, check out yesterday's episode, VSiN at the Track, wherever you get your podcasts over on YouTube. All right. I woke up to about 25 texts this morning, which is never a good sign on Derby week. We had breaking news, which broke my heart. Fulleffort, a horse that I very much liked and thought was a win contender in this Kentucky Derby, scratched this morning. Ocelli now in off the also eligible list. Not a big post position change. It's taking out the 20, putting in the 22. So not going to see anybody toward the inside or the middle body of this field moving into gates. What was your reaction first to Full Effort, and then I'll go on my diatribe here.
I have a really funny story because I was on VSiN when the news broke. Actually, I did a hit on VSiN by the books to this morning with Dave and Jensen, and they were like, "Hey, the producer came in like right before we went on air and said, hey, Full Effort to scratch." I was like, "Okay," so we talked about it. Funniest thing, Mike, Jensen was like, I'm going to put Somich's Superfecta in, and he's got this 20 horse in this. And now I don't, I was like, yeah, just text Somich, he'll help you. So maybe he was one of those 25 text messages, but look, it's awful. I mean, I like, same with Silent Taka. You just hate it for the connections. You're in the Derby and you have to scratch. It's bad. I was using Full Effort underneath as well in tries and supers. And so obviously that's not going to happen now. It didn't really change my handicapping so much because he was a horse that was just going to drop back and make one run. Like he wasn't a pace horse. And so you don't really have to adjust where that goes. But you either have to make the decision, hey, my exotic ticket's going to be a little bit cheaper because he was on there, or I'm just going to replace him with another horse, maybe that's a little bit of price as well to get that price element in there. But I hate it. I also thought, like you said, this horse had third or fourth written all over him, and now we have to adjust when it comes to that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I thought this horse possibly could have first written on him, which is where really, to me, that was the frustrating part. This was the long shot, the horse sitting at 20-1, 20+1 that I thought that you'd be able to add on top of a superfecta, on top of a trifecta, if you really wanted to burst the bubble of value there and try and make a big hit on Kentucky Derby Saturday. Right, a superfecta for the guide for over at VSiN. I have 3 superfectas in there, a small, medium, and large budget. I had them on top in the large budget. So like I was trying to find a way to really create value around Full Effort. With him scratching, it sucks. Not happy about it, to be honest. To your point, I don't think it does affect the pace of the race. Obviously, he was going to drop back, make one big run. I don't think there is an equal closer that you can kind of put into his spot. And that to me is where the real frustrating part is. Like you can talk about Golden Tempo, but I think clearly Full Effort was a better version of Golden Tempo and a horse that I would much rather have come flying late. We've seen this synthetic over to dirt thing work before for Brad Cox, specifically last year running fourth. So I'm pretty frustrated that Full Effort out of there. Obviously, a lot of reworking this morning inside the superfectas, but it does elevate a horse I haven't talked about a lot into the second place spot in a lot of my superfectas as well. Something we're going to talk about a little bit later when we get to the Derby.
I think that's going to be very interesting. And what a teaser. You should stay tuned and watch that. The other kind of frustrating thing, Mike, is a horse that you might have slid kind of in that spot could have been number 13 Silent Tactic because he was going to be kind of that closing horse. And of course, he scratches as well. So you're right. Like those deep closers, you go to Golden Tempo. That's who you kind of gravitate to. But look, I think at the end of the day, I don't even think you really thought this horse was going to win. And I think that's the main thing. When you lose that big win contender, you really thought he was going to win the race? Seriously?
I thought he was one of 3 logical horses to win. I have a pretty small list on top, and that obviously adjusted. I went back and I watched Mage win the Kentucky Derby, and I watched Sovereignty win the Kentucky Derby this morning. And you're looking at these horses that were sitting in 16th, 17th place around the backstretch, and they got a pretty good trip because they're both on the rail with no one around them. That was very much in Full Effort's plan. Like that is the trip that he could have exactly gotten. And so watching those back, it made me maybe hurt just a little bit more inside. I also had 6 horses that I was really like, hey, these are the 5 I really like. And this is the 6th on the outside looking in that I'm not sure about. Further ado, by the way, if you haven't watched the show, I'm down to 4 horses now, right? Or 5 horses, I'm sorry, that I have some interest in left. And one of them, further ado, wasn't originally in that list. So it is really shortened up my take on this race as well. I'm now going to probably have a pretty big trifecta bet in there because I do think that if I'm right, it's one of these 4 horses and I can really kind of focus down on those horses specifically with 2 on top. So from a betting perspective, it definitely kind of sharpens my opinion down to specific horses, but it takes out some of the value on that top side of the race.
Yeah, it takes out your 20-1 shot who was probably going to be 20-1, and that's the thing. It's funny, I just never really considered him a logical win contender, but I did see Eddie Olczyk pick this horse to win, further Fulleffort. So it's like, man, that he was getting a lot of steam. I don't know if you saw it, but he actually kind of stumbled a little bit in a gallop yesterday, and then you hear about the scratch. So I wonder if that stumble, maybe something little happened there to him, just kind of galloping, and that just kind of reminds you of just how fragile these animals are. I mean, he wasn't doing anything serious yesterday, just kind of stretching his legs out, and like I said, just had a little bobble there, and maybe that's what caused it, or maybe something happened that caused him to do that. I don't know, but listen, I've got full confidence you're going to pivot, and this is all going to work out. Full confidence.
What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing.
All right, now yesterday you mentioned we had 400,000 in the win pool. Today we were up to 800,000. If you looked at, don't look at it now. Don't you dare. Just keep looking at me. Don't start clicking around. Have you looked at the odds right now in the Kentucky Derby?
Okay, I was going to go look at it, and you caught me. You're right. I did not get there, so you caught me in time. The last I saw was about 8:30 this morning, and Renegade was 5-1. That's what I remember.
Renegade is your favorite right now at 5-1. Okay. Who is your second choice at 6-1 right now?
My guess, based on what I saw this morning, is the Puma.
So Happy right now is your second choice at 6-1. Your third choice right now is Further Ado. Fourth is the Puma.
Okay.
What's your take on So Happy currently being the second favorite in the Kentucky Derby?
Is this sentimental money? Is it the great story of So Happy, or is it more Mike Smith money? That's kind of my question marks. I'm not sure. That's very interesting. Maybe it's a little bit of name money coming in as well. Also, look, he got 100 buyer last time out. And when you look at Thoroughgraphs, you look at that, he's got a very nice pattern come in there too. So maybe that money's starting to kind of flood in on So Happy that we didn't think would be here. I am surprised he's the second choice. I'm shocked, really.
Yeah, me too. I was not, like, 15-1 morning line. I would not have had So Happy on the sub 10-1 list. We'll see if this sticks, but early returns, a lot of So Happy money coming in. And I guess, most people would argue, and I would agree, the best horse in California. Some distance concerns, but that definitely kind of spices this up, because if I can get Further Ado as the third choice, all of a sudden I can run out the first two and it's So Happy and it's Renegade in my super. I'm a little bit more happy. Like, this is a good thing to me because of this money coming in here on So Happy. Again, we will go over everything Kentucky Derby at the end of the show. It's going to be the final race that we handicap. We're going to interweave your comments in here as well. But excited to bring in our guest here to talk Derby, talk Oaks, Mike Beer from DRF, going to join the show. Now it's time to welcome Mike Beer from DRF to the show, someone who I have had some beers with at Saratoga before. We've enjoyed a picnic table together in the backyard. Mike, how you doing here?
Doing pretty good. I'm ready to get these races going here. Let's get these Friday and Saturday cards going. We've done all the work, right, guys? I mean, I think we're all pretty much decided where we've landed for the most part. Just want to see the odds and get this thing going.
Exactly. It's been what, 5 months in the making here now to get to this Kentucky Derby. Ever since the juvenile, it's been the talk of the town. I want to just introduce the people to your handicapping style before we get into the specific races. You're like me. You love long shots. You're looking for prices, looking for value in a lot of these races. One of the reasons I was excited to have you on here, because I assume you're not going to pick Renegade, which I think is a great thing. Gives the people a little bit more to think about here, Mike. So talk about your kind of handicapping style before we get into these specific races.
Yeah, you've kind of nailed it. I mean, it is a gambling game. And so, yeah, favorites win a lot. That's for sure. Anybody who's played the game long enough knows that favorites do win a lot. But I personally, when I'm betting, I don't want to have to be right that often. And if you're going to be betting favorites, you got to be right a lot. And I don't want to have to be right that often. I want to be able to be less right, but make more money. That's why I'm always looking for prices. I'm always trying to beat favorites. And that's just not in the Kentucky Derby. That's kind of an everyday thing. But I think in the Derby, it's no fun to pick the favorite in the Kentucky Derby. There are so many other interesting horses, man. Even if the favorite wins, that's fine with me. I'm usually not on them.
Well, look, I mean, I think in the Derby, it's very easy to get to some prices, and it's certainly this Derby it is as well. real quick, before we get to the Kentucky Derby, I think another race that is a completely wide open race is the Kentucky Oaks. And I think to your betting style, it probably plays perfect. There's a lot of options. So when you look at the Kentucky Oaks this year, who are some of the horses that you like?
Yeah, the Oaks, I thought, it's interesting. I'll be interested to hear what you guys thought of that race too, because when I first pulled the PPs for it, I sort of felt like it was a lot like the Derby, where it was just sort of wide open and a bunch of different horses could win that I could make cases for. And then I think by the time I got done handicapping it, I was like, oh, I really only think 3 or 4 of these horses can win. I didn't really wound up liking a lot of the price horses that I thought I was going to like. First of all, I thought maybe I'd be a little bit against Zany, who I think would be the favorite, and I'm not. I think she's the most likely winner of that race. I think 9 furlongs really helps her. I think there's a narrative out there that she hasn't improved from 2 to 3. And I don't buy that narrative. That narrative at all. I think she's actually run really well in her 2 races. So I think she's the horse to beat, but I don't think she's invulnerable. The 2 horses that I would try to beat her with, one of them is Chad Brown's horse, Always a Runner, than 9. I just think she's really, really talented. She's so green still, but wasn't as green winning the Gazelle as she was in her debut. She didn't even have any idea what she was doing, but she still won anyway. She wasn't as bad in the Gazelle, but she still had those tendencies. But I think she cleaned it up a lot in there. If she can clean it up one more time and take a little step forward, I think she can win the Oaks. So I wanted to bet her. And the other horse that I like is Brad Cox's horse, Prom Queen, the 10. I just think she's really good. I think the distance is no issue for her. She's a very fair price on the morning line. So, I'm not against Zany. I'm going to try to beat her with the 9 and the 10.
This is why we have you on the show, Mike. I've got the 10 on, or the 9 on top and the 10 in second. Aaron's got the 10 in second. So a lot of just handicapping, the kind of just formatting for us here that you're telling us we're in the right area. To me, Always a Runner. She's as good as anybody off that last race. If she takes a step forward, 10-1 is a crazy price. Do you think we actually get 10-1 on Always a Runner when it comes to race?
I think I don't know, maybe not 10. You want it to take, 7 or 8, maybe. I don't know. I still think she's going to be a fair price because I think they're going to go for Zany. I think they're going to go for Percy's Bar still. I mean, and I'm not going to sit here and suggest that Percy's Bar can't win it, that she's not a good horse, but I want no part of her in this race. And they're going to, the Baffert horse on the rail has to take money. I think Explorer, she's a really nice horse. And she's got speed from the inside for those connections. She's getting bet in there.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I think you're going to get your prices. You may not get double digits on Always a Runner. That is it does look like a really nice horse. One horse I want to ask you about, because we're right. We're Always a Runner, Prom Queen. We're right there with you on that one. One horse I want to ask you about, and the horse I actually put on top, is the number 4 Counting Stars. What were your thoughts on this Mark Casse runner? A little bit inconsistent. We've seen some poor races, but the last 2 have been pretty good.
That's going to hold me back, I think, from using her in this race. Unless, I guess, if she just totally blows out in price and goes up to like maybe 15, 20-1 range. I don't think that's going to happen because she has the top number in the field for that win last time. If she's sub 10-1, I'm probably just not going to use her. Not because I don't think she's a good horse. I thought she was a good horse from day one, but I just don't know. I don't know. I can't explain those 2 bad performances. And there's 2. It's not one. There's 2 races where she was just a total no-show for no apparent reason. I don't even know what happened in those races. So that, to me, it just makes it too hard to trust her in a race like the Kentucky Oaks. But I think she fits really well with these horses, though.
Now, before we get into a next question, I just want to mention DRF here. We've got a special 37% off deal right now at DRF. You can go to shop.drf.com or scan the QR code on your screen today to get clockers reports, experts pick, past performances all in one place. DRF is what both Aaron and I use. Obviously, Mike, I assume you're a DRF user as well here. So a great way to attack this weekend's card. Now, before we get to Derby, one more question for you. We like Always a Runner. We like Prom Queen. Are you looking to bet this race as a win bet? Is this an exacta, trifecta? How are you trying to structure your tickets here for the Kentucky Oaks?
I'm pretty much, these days anyway, I've sort of abandoned the multi-race wager kind of deal here. I still like to throw in a pick 5 here and there, but I don't play nearly as many of them as I used to. I like to get odds on horses to win. I like to bet horses to win at prices, and I love to play exactas. That's kind of how I've narrowed it down, especially more like the last 5 years or so, just trying to find horses I like. There aren't as many of them, so I don't bet as many races as I used to, but just try to find horses that I like at prices and sort of jam it in there.
All right, let's get to the main event here, the Kentucky Derby, obviously coming up here on Saturday. right off the bat, I think the big story, the favorite draws the rail. Two-part question. Well, I guess really one-part question. Renegade, were you going to be on him anyway? And do you like the rail? Because it's like, okay, now I can totally throw him out, or would you rather him draw a nice post because you were going to throw him out anyway?
Um, I guess I was kind of, I don't think I don't want to say I was against him because I think he's one of the more likely winners of the race, but I guess drawing the rail, I would prefer he didn't because I think that might draw people off of him and maybe actually make him a price that I would go, oh man, now I probably got to use it. Listen, personally, let's talk about this first then, since you brought up the rail thing. I mean, is this a big deal? Like, do you guys think it's a big deal? I don't care. I don't care about post positions in any race for the most part. And I know the Derby, it's a little different because there's 20 horses. I don't care what post these horses draw. I don't think it makes any difference at all. You can get in trouble in the Derby from any post position. There's 20 horses in here. A lot's going to happen in that first eighth or eighth and a quarter of a mile. Especially since they've changed the gate too, since they've gone away from the auxiliary gate. I just don't think it's a big deal. And to me, if I really liked Renegade, I don't think the rail draw would put me off.
If I really liked Renegade, I actually think the rail draw is probably a positive because if you believe he's just 3-4 lengths the best, you're going to get a better price with him on the rail. And so you're almost okay with it. My issue with Renegade on the rail is I just don't see a world where he's not 19th, 20th the first time under the wire. And then it's you're going to be on the inside and you're going to be in the back of the field. I'd rather be outside if I'm in the back of the field because then I can just circle horses versus having to try and weave my way through traffic and find a way to get to the outside and beat other horses to the hole as I'm closing. So that was my issue with the 1-4 Renegade there. I do think that like I would rather be a closer than to be a speed horse on the rail. That's for sure. Because I think you're just going to have to gun it and just try and go gate to wire, which is near impossible if you look at the last 4 or 5 years here of the Kentucky Derby. So to me, the rail draw was a negative for Renegade. But if you're a fan, I don't think you have to not bet him just because he's there.
That I think all those points are very valid. And since you brought it up, I think that's probably the next stepping stone for us here to talk. Not that I want to jump in this regard, but the pace of this race, I think, is really important, right? I mean, how fast are they going to go in here? Because when I thought about it, as far as Renegade's concerned, is if they go fast, like really fast early, all it does is help him. I know he'll be further back in the field still, but they're going to stretch this field out. There might not be nearly as much traffic for a horse like him if this field gets all stretched out early, and it's only going to help a horse like Renegade, who I believe is the best finisher in the race. I think he has the best closing kick in the race, and so if they go fast, I think he's going to be pretty hard to beat.
I think they're going to go fast. 3-4 weeks ago, Mike, I was like, I don't know. This kind of looks like maybe it'll be not a slow pace. You never get a slow pace in the Derby, but for the Derby standard, I thought it might be slow. But yeah, I think with these horses drawn to the outside that have speed, and then Great White gets in. I know he's not just a burner, but still, I think that's going to help the pace a little bit as well. So I'm with you. I think they're going to go pretty fast. I want to ask about one specific horse before we get to the ones that you ultimately like. I don't know, maybe you like this horse as well, but a horse that is the most polarizing, I think, is the number 7 Dannon Bourbon. I've heard people say he's going to win the Triple Crown. I've heard people say he'll run 18th. Where are you land on this Japanese shipper this year?
I really like him as a horse. No, I probably shouldn't have led that way. I don't know if I like him in the Derby. Just because I really like him as a horse. I think he's a super talented horse. He's a real wild card in here for me, and I won't leave him out. I'll put it that way. I won't completely leave him out. I didn't pick him on top. He's not like my top pick. I'm not going to bet him to win in this race. I think he's really good. Like I watch his 3 races in Japan, and I don't know. Maybe he's not beating anything. You don't win races. You don't win races like that if you're not good. And they rode him in every one of those races like they knew he was so much better than those horses that it just did not matter. He has so much working against him in here just because when you watch his races in Japan, no adversity at all. I mean, he's sitting on the outside. He's right up on top of the pace. He takes over whenever he wants to take over. He's going to get in traffic in this race. He's going to be behind horses at some point. He's never dealt with any of that stuff. You got the left-handed, right-handed thing too. I guess you could throw that in there. I think it's probably too much for him, but I don't know, man. I'm not going to be shocked if he can go with these horses and he wins the Derby. I think this horse can really run.
I think he is a runner. I think this is going to be a learning
Yeah.
experience for what it is like to run in North America. And I think most of these horses need that. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if our first Japanese winner of this race wins a prep in the U.S. before winning the Kentucky Derby, where you're like, hey, we need to get used to this. Let's do it with a field of 8 versus a field of 20, right? Let's find an easier way to kind of introduce ourselves to this style of racing. Two of the more polarizing horses that are taking money are the number 12 Chief Wallaby and the number 18 Further Ado for different reasons. Chief Wallaby, all the talent in the world. Now we're adding blinkers for Bill Mott, obviously a Hall of Fame trainer. The blinkers thing, a concern. Further Ado, is he just a Keeneland horse? I mean, 2 awesome races at Keeneland, little something to be desired in some of the other races. What do you make of Chief Wallaby and Further Ado here?
Chief Wallaby for me is, I think, one of the more talented horses in this crop. I want Chief Wallaby like in 2 or 3 months at Saratoga. That's really where I want him. I
want my Travers future.
I think by the time we get there, he might be the best horse out of all these. I don't know if he's the best out of all these right now, but he might be. He's just one of those horses who I don't think I want to bet him if he's not 15, 20 to 1. I think he's going to be more like 8, 10 to 1. And listen, at those odds, he can just beat me in here, but I won't be surprised if he does. This is how I look at Chief Wallaby. He's on my pick 5 ticket. I'm not betting this horse to win, and I'm not betting him in the exacta either, but I think he's really good.
Yeah, I agree. He looks the best horse until he can't get to the wire. He just didn't accelerate there in the wire of the Florida Derby, or maybe he gets it done. All right, let's go into it. Who you like in this race? Who's your top couple of picks?
I feel like to me the most reliable horse, and the horse I thought I would pick on top for a long time and then didn't, is Commandment. I just think he's really reliable. He's not a superstar, but he might, at this stage of the game, he might be the best horse in the race, and he's just really reliable. He's going to show up. He's going to run his race. He can get any kind of a trip. I know that people are talking about how he can't keep a jockey. I don't see how that's a big deal for a horse like him. He's already had, 4 different jockeys. He runs for anybody. To me, that's the least of my concerns. I think he's going to get the right trip in here. I think he's going to fire his shot, and maybe it'll be good enough. I'm looking at him as the horse to beat, and I'll just use an awful lot of him. But I just didn't want to pick him on top because he is one of the favorites in here. And then there was this whole group of horses sort of drawn to the middle of the field that I was just trying to decide, like, who's the most interesting horse at a price. And I wound up landing on a horse I really didn't think I was going to like until about 3 or 4 days ago when my picks were due for DRF. And I picked the number 14 Potente, and I'm betting Potente in this race.
Ooh.
I think he's the best horse from California. I think he's better than the horse that just beat him in the Santa Anita Derby. And I just think he's going to get a different trip this time. Putting him on the lead last time, it didn't really work out for him. I really liked his San Felipe, his prep win 2 starts back. I thought he ran great in there. He did it from just off the pace. He galloped out a mile in front of that field. So I feel like he's going to handle the 10 furlong distance in here. Look, he's going to have to improve to win here. And because it's Baffert, maybe you won't get the 20 to 1 morning line. I'll be interested to see what price he is, though, because I think he is going to be a good price in here. I think he's a good horse, and at a fair price, that's where I landed. I'm gonna take Potente in this race.
850,000 in the pool right now, Mike. 24 to 1.
There you go.
On Potente. So currently trending up a little bit there. I'm shocked. I did not think you were going. I thought you're a New York guy. I thought this was going to be the emerging market conversation, not the Potente conversation. We're talking about prices in the middle of the field. I agree with you on Commandment. Most likely horse to hit the Super. Yeah. A horse I would never bet to win. So he's one of those that I'm putting all over the place underneath in my tries, my supers, my exactas, because I agree. I think he's the truest horse in the race at this point of their careers. And so I want to make sure I have him as a use, but I think we can get around him on top. The Potente conversation, we talked about the pace. Yeah. What's the trip for Potente? Because to me, he feels like a horse that wants to be a little more forward, and that's why I've left him out of a lot of my bets. Are you expecting a trip where he's going to have to be sitting in the top 5 here in the first turn, or do you think he can sit off the pace and make a big run?
I'm looking for him, at least second flight anyway. It's going to be up to Juan Hernandez here to really get this horse to settle early in the race. But again, he did that 2 starts back, and it didn't seem like a big problem to me. Like, when I went back and sort of looked at his debut, and I know it's not like a super flashy Baffert debut kind of a horse, but this horse was a real professional winning that race first time out. So I don't think he's some kind of runoff speed horse. And I think he proved that when they stretched him out for a second career start. He sat behind horses really comfortably. When I watched that race back, like they got to the top of the stretch in there, and the horse that ran second to him there, Robusta, I think it was, just was right in front of him, sort of drifted out in front of him too. That didn't bother Potente at all. He just moved out a path and he just came running and went right by that horse at the end. I think he's professional enough to just sort of take a hold of him early. I want him to be forward. Don't get me wrong. I don't want him to get out running this race. I want him to be forward first time through the stretch, but then just sort of get him that trip that he got 2 starts back, angle him over, sit behind horses for a little while, get first run on some of these other horses.
One angle, and I got to ask you about that. It's kind of an angle that Mike and I talk about a lot on the show is, Baffert outside of California has really struggled the last 3 or 4 years. Do you think that's just more of, hey, he just hasn't had the stock? Maybe he hasn't shipped horses as much. Or are you a little bit worried, hey, Baffert outside of California could be a problem?
I don't think it's like there's nothing to it, because I don't know if maybe I'm sure I'm a little older than you guys, but I remember when these were automatic wins. He would come to New York, he'd come to Oakland. Those horses didn't lose. They lose now. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a stock thing. Like he's had a bunch of horses the last couple of years, especially in these 3-year-old races where I'm like, that horse isn't very good. Yeah, so we'll see. I trust Baffert. I'll just put it that way. I trust Baffert. When he's got a good one, they show up and run.
All right, Mike, before we let you go, one more question for you, just in the Saturday card in general. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. Anybody that you like on the undercard that you want to make sure you mention here as either a price or a horse that you're very confident is going to be able to win on one of these other Grade 1 races?
You know what? I'll give you, let's see. I feel like there were a bunch of races that I didn't think were that interesting from a wagering perspective. You know who I want to bet? I don't want to say this is like a likely winner or anything. I wouldn't put it that way. But in the American Turf, I think it's the 9th race on Saturday, Black Hornet. Number 6. That's a wide open race. I think 10 different horses could win there, but Black Hornet's probably going to be 20-30 to 1. I love his turf races. They tried him on synthetic last time. I think he hated the surface. He got a terrible trip in that race. He's a turf horse. He's going to get totally overlooked in there. His 2 turf races are real good.
Dude, I was randomly at Fairgrounds when Black Hornet won that second race. We were there on vacation, and so let's go to Fairgrounds. And I thought the same thing. He beat a heavy favored Cox horse that day, and I was like, he ran really damn good in that race. So I love that pick. That's great.
We will talk about that race a little bit later. One of my best bets comes from that race. It's not Black Hornet. So I love stark contrast. I love that horse getting back to the turf. And we'll see what we get price-wise. But we will dive into that race a little bit more a little bit later. But, Mike, I just want to say thank you very much for the time. I know how busy you are here on Kentucky Derby Week. Really appreciate you taking the time to jump on the show. And good luck with everything this weekend.
Guys, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. This was a good time. The time blew right by. It felt like nothing to me. So thanks for having me on. Good luck to everybody this weekend.
All right, that is Mike Beer joining us from DRF. Make sure if you are looking for a way to handicap the races this weekend, you head over to DRF right now. You can get 37% off for a limited time over at shop.drf.com, or you can scan the QR code on your screen. Bet smarter. All right, Aaron, we are going to get into our preps here. But before we do that, I want to make sure I mention the YouTube page. If you're listening in podcast form, make sure you head over to @VSiN at the track. Check out what we're doing over on YouTube. Ton of comments there, which we're going to go through as we handicap the Kentucky Derby. So if you want to become part of the show, head over to @VSiN at the track over on youtube.com. All right, Aaron, our previews start with race number 10, 7 furlongs on the dirt, the Churchill Downs, a Grade 1 race. Contention runs deep here. Disco Time, Cornucopian. You've got Knightsbridge, Imagination, Disruptor, a ton of very good horses, including a Japanese Invader and T.O. Elvis. Where are you going on top?
Hard for me to go against the number 6 Knightsbridge in this spot, man. I have been so impressed with this horse this year, and it really started last year at Aqueduct. He came back. This was a horse, he has tons of problems staying on the track, right? When he was a 2-year-old, he broke his maiden, and it's like, oh, this is going to be a big-time 3-year-old. And then he missed, a lot of time, and he just never could get him back. He's back. He's healthy. I'm telling you, his last 2 races, in my opinion, have been electric. He won the Hooper at Gulfstream Park so impressively, then came back and won another race at Gulfstream impressively as well. I know this is a tougher field today, and I know that is going to be kind of the knock or, hey, we're going to try to beat him. I don't want any part of trying to beat him. I love the number 6 Knightsbridge in this spot.
Yeah, this is He's an interesting one for me because he has not faced the competition that you'd want him to face heading into this race. I don't think either of those races were all that tough. You see him as a forward horse. I don't think he needs the lead. I think this is a horse that can absolutely stalk and be able to close. I'm going to go for a little bit of an upset. I'm going to go to the number 2 Cornucopian here for Bob Baffert. We just mentioned how well he is shipped. This is a horse that I think always was a one-turn horse. We tried way too early with the Arkansas Derby. It didn't go well. Went back to Aqueduct. Didn't run that well there. Kind of hit the reset button. Went out to Santa Anita. Ran the 6.5 furlongs, was able to stalk the pace and win easily. Won a grade 3 at 7 furlongs, stalked the pace, won easily. This is, to me, the horse that wants to be going. 6.5, 7 furlongs. And we kind of got a little ahead of our skis in that 3-year-old season because of the Derby fever here with a horse that cost a pretty penny. I'll take a little bit of a better price here, 7-2 on Cornucopian versus the 9-5 on Knightsbridge, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if Knightsbridge wins this race. Do want to mention a couple others in here, specifically the number 7 Imagination and the number 1 Disco Time for different reasons here. 7 Imagination ran second in the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year, another Baffert horse, but is coming back from overseas. Just won the Radai Dirt Sprint over in Saudi Arabia on that undercard. Ran a huge race to do so, but now has to try and come back to the States and be able to win again. And Disco Time, a horse that, I mean, honestly, I've made fun of the last couple of races because it's just pathetic that he wasn't able to get home, specifically at Tampa last time out, but now cutting back. Any interest in either of these horses, the number 1 Disco Time or the 7 Imagination?
Well, it's funny you picked Cornucopian, and I have respect for him, but the Baffert horse I'm worried about is Imagination, the 7 horse. I think this is a super nice horse. I mean, another one that they tried to go like the Derby route and try to get. He did run in the Preakness, and it just went the other way. But man, when they've sprinted him the last 3 races, he's been fantastic. Go back to Santa Anita Sprint Championship, 3 races back, he just dominated that group in first gear, basically. He ran a really good second behind Ben Tornado in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and that was a very, very tough race, and he came running and got second. Went over and won last time out overseas as well. I think he is a world-class sprinter. I think he's proven it now, so I do worry about him. I like him quite a bit. Boy, the Disco Time thing, boy, that would really make me mad if he wins this race after I've chased him a couple of times. I really was a huge believer in this horse going in the Pegasus, and I wanted to throw up. That was such a terrible race he ran that day. And I didn't learn my lesson, and he went to the Challenger in the next spot at Tampa Bay, and I thought, well, he'll get him here. This is a good spot. And Disruptor, who's also in this field, he's also in the field on Friday as well that we talked about. I don't know where he's going to run, but Disruptor beats him. And not only did it beat him, Mike, it's like, Disco Time got up there, and it's like, okay, here we go. He's going to win. And then it got into a fight, and Disco Time said, take it. I don't want it. That's why I don't have a lot of interest in him here, because I feel like he's going to have to run really, really well to win. And I think if he gets any dogfight, I don't think he wants to do it. I think he's a horse that's been blowing out other horses. And then when he gets with horses that are other good right there with him, I don't think he runs quite as well. I do like the cutback. You could sit there and go, hey, the 2 races going around 2 turns. That's why he didn't run well last time out. Cutting back to 1 turn, maybe that helps him. But he wasn't for me in this spot.
Yeah, the cutback is what makes him interesting. I'm not going to get there, especially at 6-1. We'll see what the off odds are. I'm interested to see what he ends up actually going off in the race. But I do think the cutback a little bit interesting there. I agree. Imagination's a really nice horse. I'm just going to pass on the return race. Like, to me, this is a horse I don't want to bet today. I want to bet tomorrow. I'll take him next time out versus this first race off the layoff when you're coming back from Saudi Arabia. We have seen horses struggle with that. One more horse on the cutback that's a price that I have to at least give a shout out to. The number 4 Hall of Fame returns to your boy Steve Asmus's barn. It's a horse that went 7 furlongs once on career debut, has not gone less than a mile since then. I like Macho Music's going to go, right? Knightsbridge probably injects pace. I would expect Cornucopian, Imagination, both going to be forward. Disco Time, we'll see what he does. Is there a world where Hall of Fame on the cutback has a shot to be able to compete with these horses? I think the win is probably tough to get to, but compete with these horses.
I want to say yes, but I don't think so is probably the answer. I've always really liked him. And, at times he has kind of been like, oh, okay. Yeah, maybe he's coming around, but I didn't like him in this spot. This almost to me feels like, okay, we've got him back with Asmussen. Let's run him here. He's ready to run, but maybe we're targeting a little bit of a softer race after this kind of, I'll call it prep or just kind of get your feet wet back to the races. So I don't love him in this spot. I think a lot of things are going to have to go right for him to get the job done here.
Yeah, that is my main concern here as well. I think this, it's another one maybe next time. However, I will probably sprinkle in a pick five just in case we get the 20-1 shot to blow up the board here. I do think Hall of Fame at least a little bit interesting. All right, that's race number 10. Churchill Downs, the Saturday card, the Churchill Downs Stakes. Grade 1 going 7 furlongs on the dirt. Number 2, Cornucopian for me at 7-2 on the morning line. Number 6, Knight's Bridge for Aaron, sitting at 9-5 there. If you're enjoying this talk, make sure you head over to VSiN because we've got everything around the Kentucky Derby covered, and VSiN Pro has everything you need to be able to bet it right. The betting guide available to VSiN Pro subscribers includes predictions, DRF Kentucky Derby past performances, and my Superfecta article in there, so make sure you check that out. Right now, you can subscribe over at vsin.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe for just $14.99 through the Belmont Stakes with our Triple Crown special. Use promo code TRACK to get 10% off there. Get it down to about, what is that? A little under $14. Not a bad deal here for a month and a half of the VSiN subscription. You will not just get all of the previews, but you'll also get daily best bets, real-time betting splits, AI-powered prop tools, and 24/7 video on the VSiN Watch app, all through the Belmont Stakes on June 6th. All right, Aaron, let's fast forward one race, head to race number 11 on the Saturday card, the Grade 1 Turf Classic, a mile and an eighth over the turf. I thought this was a extremely difficult race to handicap and end up with a horse on top, so I am interested to see, where are you going on top in this spot?
Yeah, I didn't really feel that way. So this is gonna be an interesting conversation. I think it's an open and shut case, honestly, and I think it's the number 6 Rhetorical. I really, really like this horse in this spot. I actually think he's the controlling speed in this race. I don't see a lot of other speed signed on. I know he's never really on the lead, but boy, he looks pretty good to be on the lead in this spot to me. I think he's naturally faster than everybody else. Look, I think the worry is going to be a mile and an eighth. I think that's what people's going to kind of bring up. He hasn't been this far before. He did run a few mile and 16 races at Saratoga last summer, and I went back and watched him at the race on July 19th and the race on August 24th. He doesn't look like a horse to me that was slowing down going a mile and a 16th. He looked just fine doing it. It's going to be a challenge. It is a question mark, but man, I think he's looking real good here. I also think the last race at Keeneland in the Maker's Mark Mile, such an oddly ran race. He ran third there. I think it sets him up real nice for this one. I think he looks really, really strong in this spot. So it's number 6 Rhetorical for me.
Yeah, look, I respect the heck out of Rhetorical. I love William Walton. We've talked about him quite a bit on this program before. Mile and eighth is a concern, especially on a turf course. I don't know how well it's going to play towards speed. We'll see how this turf course ends up holding. It's interesting because we got some rain on Monday and Tuesday, so you watch Wednesdays and Thursdays races, and it's like, well, not sure I have a great feeling on exactly what to expect at this point from the turf course. I also think that the number 4 program trading may throw a curveball in your speed thing. We've often see when Brown has more than one horse, one of them goes. You've got the number 3 Asbury Park, who very much needs to have a pace set up in front to be able to win this race. I wouldn't be shocked if program trading injects some pace into this race and says, hey, I'm going to go to the front. Catch me if you can. And oh, by the way, that's also how we won the Saratoga Derby in 2023 at Saratoga. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what program trading decides to do and whether or not that's going to be your pace threat. I'm scared of Rhetorical if he's loose on the lead. But I'm going to go with the 9 test score. This is a horse that I've loved for, I don't know, a long time, and ran huge in the Pegasus World Cup Turf Invitational last time out, first time facing older for Graham Motion and Manny Franco. I didn't think got the best trip in that race. I had one Stripe who was flying late and ended up just missing against test score. I think this is your best horse at a mile and an eighth, and I expect improvement here. Kind of second time out here in the 4-year-old season, first off the bench. It's a horse that, we've seen run well here at Churchill Downs before, ran second in the American Turf to Zulu Kingdom. To me, this is a spot where I think test score at 7-2, and a race that I do think is very contentious, as I have 5 or 6 horses I could pick on top here, is where I'm going to land as my top pick.
Look, I like test score as well. I thought the race last time out in the Pegasus World Cup Turf, first race out as a 4-year-old, and you had those question marks. Okay, hey, is he good enough? From 3 to 4, can he step up to these older horses? And he passed the test, and I thought he ran extremely well. I also thought one Stripe, your horse you picked that day, was the actual best horse in that race. So just got the tough trip, but test score's a really, really classy horse, and I think the thing that you love about him you don't have to worry about the distance. The mile and an eighth is exactly what he wants to do. So I understand that one. I want to bring up the number 3 Asbury Park though, because this is one I think has the big chance to upset. I don't know what program trading will do. I don't really want any part of him for Chad Brown. If he goes and sets the pace, that's fine. If I don't know, I'm just kind of done with him. This Asbury Park horse, this is a pretty aggressive entry, you know. He was a horse that had a ton of hype way back in 2024, debuting at Saratoga. I remember you and I were on the air together when they ran this race, and we were like, we've heard some good things, and he didn't run very well. He was off for 293 days. He comes back, he breaks the maiden, and then he's just average. He's not very good. He was really good last time out in the Jockey Club there in to end 2025. Now you're off a long layoff. His numbers don't really say, hey, we're ready to come win this race. But Flavian Pratt gets aboard this horse instead of program trading. I don't know, Mike. I think this is one where it's like Chad Brown knows something. He really likes this horse. I thought he was a very live horse at 8-1.
Yeah, I have him in second. This is one of those like head scratching entries, and Pratt decides to be here instead of program trading. I think the wrong Brown horse is the shorter price. We'll see what the race day number is, because these horses often get bet for Brown as well. So I'm interested to see if Asbury Park does end up getting bet to being the favored Brown of the two of them here. I would have it that way. We'll see if the public decides to agree with me. One more I want to mention before we move on here: the number 10, Make Me King. We'll call it a European invader, even though the last couple were in Maidan, where we were running in over in Dubai. This horse did run in group stakes, including winning a stakes race over in Great Britain. So we do have some of this European turf flair. What do you make of? We'll call it the new shooter here in the number 10, Make Me King, 6-1 on the morning line.
Well, I think makes a lot of sense. I think when you look at some of the races this horse has been in, especially back into last year, even really, really good company. I think makes a ton of sense. I think comes over for a trainer that we don't see a lot of. We do see some though, just not as much as like the Applebees or the Aiden O'Briens, right? And so I think, might get a little bit ignored on the tote board because of that. I like that they get a local jockey here with Jose Ortiz to ride. I think's in with a big shot. I think can compete in this group. I don't think can beat a horse like Rhetorical or even a horse like Test Score. I think, the more I watch the races, I think he might be a small cut below them. But what if he gets over here and it's like, wow, we underestimated who he's been up against. Maybe he really likes the style of racing here in the United States. He's right there. So if you're kind of looking for that alternative, and I think you're going to get every bit of 6-1 or not a little bit higher. I looked at him for a long time. I think he's one that makes a ton of sense, and he's been everywhere. That's the other thing about it. It's like, yeah, we don't know if he'll handle the United States. Well, he's handled everywhere else he's went.
Going to be interesting to see how he decides to handle the pace situation as well. As a horse that's been very prominent in his races going a mile. So we'll see if this is another part of your pace. That is the race number 11 on the Saturday Kentucky Derby card. The Turf Classic number 6, Rhetorical for Aaron, 5-2 on the morning line. At number 9, Test Score for me at 7-2 on the morning line. All right, before we get to the granddaddy of them all, the Kentucky Derby, want to make sure, again, we mentioned we've got the road to the Triple Crown happening over at VSiN right now. Take advantage of that Triple Crown special. Get your full VSiN Pro access through the Belmont Stakes for just $14.99 and use code TRACK for an additional 10% off. You'll get the Kentucky Derby betting guide with my Superfecta article in there. Plus, you'll have all of the coverage in the Oaks Derby previews, post draw analysis, as well as race day coverage, and you'll get everything we do in the sports world over at VSiN as well. This offer expires today, so make sure you head over to vsin.com/subscribe. Use promo code TRACK, TRACK. That's vsin.com/subscribe. All right, Aaron, it's time. It's time to talk about the Kentucky Derby. I think most people know where I'm going on top. So I'm going to start out with my handicap here and who I'm going to put on top of this Kentucky Derby this year. For me, it's going to be number 12, Chief Wallaby. If you've been following the show, you're probably not very surprised that I'm going to stick to my guns here. This is the horse that I thought was going to win the Derby the minute he crossed the line in his debut down there at Gulfstream. Am I concerned about the blinkers? Well, certainly I'm concerned about the blinkers. And we have a comment here. TKL runs in. I'm a simple man. I see horses making an equipment change for the Derby are 0 for 13 over the last 25 years, finishing in the money. Well, that horse won't be on any of my cards. That's why I'll feel stupid if this goes poorly, because there is a clear reason to fade Chief Wallaby if you want to fade Chief Wallaby. I would also argue only Palace Malice was a legitimate horse that added blinkers for this race. So you really are 0 for 1. And that horse went nuts with the blinkers on. I'm going to trust Bill Mott that this blinkers thing is going to work out. I also love the post draw. Like if he was in the 1, I would be out. If he was in the 4, I'd be out. But the 12, I think, allows Chief Wally to be outside of horses. And to me, that's really the key here. It's can you get the sovereignty trip from last year? Because that trip with Chief Wallaby's talent, I think, wins this race. So I'm going to stick with my guns. I'm going to go the number 12, Chief Wallaby on top. Mr. Halterman, I don't know who you're picking. Where are you going on top in this race?
Well, I'm gonna pump you up for a second to put you in a good mood, because I remember back when you picked Mage and everybody goes, he didn't race as a 3-year-old and he's not justified. He's not winning this race. So it's not the first time that you've picked a horse that's against trends that wins, right? And we hope Chief Wallaby wins, but Mage was able to do that, even though people were telling you he was not going to be able to do that. So I'll it is what it is. Trends are important. Stats are important. Sometimes they go the other way. So we'll see there. All right. Well, go ahead and bring Mike Beer back on, and he can make fun of me and you can make fun of me. And, oh, this is so dumb. You shouldn't bet this horse to win. Commandment for me, number 6 commandment for me. Listen, first of all, I do think he is going to be 7-8 to 1, because when you look at what's going on, and listen, that's not a bad price. It's not like that's a short price, guys. So I kept going back and forth. I don't have a terribly strong opinion about this race, but I just kept gravitating back to Commandment. And look, he's won 4 races in a row. He's been running against those Gulfstream Park horses who we think are the best horses in the crop. But the main thing that I kept going back to, he's won doing a little bit of everything. He's been close to the pace. He's been middle of the pack. He's circled all the horses and been last and won. He's won up the rail. He's won by splitting horses. He's won by going to the far outside. He's won with different jockeys on him. He has one common theme. He wins. And I just kept going back and said, this horse is so consistent. I don't really care that he's losing jockeys. I think there's other factors that have made that happen, and not the fact that, that they're jumping off him because they don't like him. I also think, we had distance concerns with this horse. I don't really have any after that Florida Derby. I thought he was accelerating at the wire pretty nicely. So, Mike, you may make fun of me, but I got number 6 Commandment on top. And the more I thought about it, the more I liked him in this race.
Well, I'll tell you that you're not going to look stupid, because I do think he's at least going to run. I could look stupid with Chief Wallaby. He could run 18th, right? I think Commandment going to be in the mix as we are turning for home, and a horse you have to keep an eye on. I with you, I had distance concerns. Those got alleviated by the Florida Derby. The fact that he basically ran 12s through the entire race, that he was able to close into a slow pace, that, all of those reasons, I think that, like, you can't overhype the distance issues that were prevalent with even Brad Cox with Commandment, even just a couple of months ago. I don't think it's a bad pick. I think it's if it just keeps the race that I keep going back to with Commandment is Epicenter. And that's the race this feels like a lot to me, Kentucky Derby wise, where Epicenter was the best horse heading into that race. But if someone ran like their A race or got the crazy trip, he probably wasn't going to beat him. And that's kind of how I feel about Commandment in this spot as well, where, I think you could make a solid argument that he is the most consistent horse, the best horse day in and day out. But there's like 5 horses that if they run their A race, beat him. And that's why it's so hard for me to pick Commandment. But you are getting 7 to 1 versus 7 to 2 as you were that day in Epicenter.
Yeah, and look, I mean, you could say, hey, Epicenter got beat, but he also turned out to be the best horse in that crop, and he got beat by Rich.
And he ran really well in the Derby.
I know. So, look, the Florida Derby specifically is what really sold me on Commandment. And I went back and I've watched this thing. I don't want to watch it again. I've watched it so many times. I've watched all these races so many times. He should have lost that day. Like you said, he's last, and he's never been last in a race. He was last. The pace was slow. 2 horses that are supposed to be better than him got the jump on him, and he still won, Mike. And I keep going back and thinking, that's the day where we could have came back on this show the next week and go, well, don't forget about Commandment, because that was a bad trip and that wasn't the setup and all that. And he still won. And I just thought, you know what? This horse might just be really good. And he might just be a horse that he knows what he's doing out there. With Chief Wallaby, I will fully sit here and tell everybody listening, I think the high-end Chief Wallaby is better than Commandment. But you know what I don't have to worry about with Commandment in this 20-horse field, Mike? being mature, knowing what he's supposed to do, making equipment changes, all of it. No, I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
it. And I just kept going back. And again, I will fully admit if Chief Wallaby puts it all together, he's probably better than Commandment, but he hasn't proven it yet. And he'll have to prove it to me on Saturday.
Yeah, and before everyone comes after me in the chat, it was Rich Strike. It wasn't Mystic Dan. Misspoke. That beat Epicenter. So and thank you. I know you knew that too, and you didn't correct me. I appreciate that. But yeah, it was Rich Strike, not Mystic Dan that won that Derby. This does feel wide open to me, though. I think you can go a lot of different ways. I wouldn't like if you love Renegade. I wouldn't talk you off Renegade. Not at the current price. Like if you're getting 5-6 to 1, like okay. Like if you really like him, and you're not worried about the rail draw, I'm not going to sit here and say you're crazy. And we have people in the chat who are saying, yeah, I like Renegade. For instance, Roundtable Treasures, been around for a while, says, flies past them all. But 1 post or 0 post or 22 post, it doesn't matter to me. He's simply the best horse. Look, I don't think that's a terrible take. If you believe it, I think the 1 hole, like I said with Mike, is probably a positive because you get a better price.
I had a question asked to me today that really threw me off, and I promised this person I would ask you, okay, when it comes to Renegade, because we both have been like, I just don't know about this post, and I've looked and I've said, hey, Mo Donegal broke from the rail. He did not hit the board in the Kentucky Derby. He won the Belmont. Dornoch broke from the rail. He did not hit the board in the Kentucky Derby. He won the Belmont. So there's been good horses break from that rail and go on to do great things, but not do good in the Kentucky Derby. Here was a question that was posed to me that did make me pause. He said, if Sierra Leone can almost win the Kentucky Derby from the 2 post, why can't Renegade win it from the rail? What's your answer to that?
Because Sierra Leone turned out to be an like all-time great horse. Like, yeah. I mean, it's a Breeders' Cup Classic champion. It's a horse that fought every fight against a very good group of horses and has run exceptionally well in every one of those situations. And like, I think I underestimated the overall talent of Sierra Leone. If you think Renegade is going to read a Breeders' Cup Classic, you're excited to bet him at 5 to 1.
Yep.
That to me is like, if you believe he's that level of horse, this is a slam dunk decision, right?
Yep. And that's what I came back with. Ultimately, I said, here's the deal. That was a world-class horse. And if you believe Renegade is that, run to the windows, because you know what? He'll win if he's a world-class horse. And that's where I fell off the bandwagon. I think he's really good. I don't think he's that good.
Yeah, I can't get to that level. And I'm again, I don't think the Arkansas Derby was that good. I think to me, there's just races that I point to where it's like, yeah, one in Florida. I mean, we disagree about this. I think the Puma would have at least finished a close second, if not beaten him that day, had the trip been better. And if that's the case, then for me, this is a hard horse to be able to get to. Now, one of the more interesting horses, I will say, the more polarizing horses in the chat was none other than my horse that I can't really decide what to do with here. Further Ado. We've got one commenter coming in saying, Denon Bourbon finishes ahead of Further Ado. Book it. We have someone else saying, give me Further Ado on top. Easiest horse to bet in this race based off the last buyer. I'll put 20 across the board on him. Further Ado is still fascinating to me. I think this is going to be one of the more interesting horses to watch. Again, there are so many positives and negatives you can put around this horse. Has the best buyer coming into the race, but both of his career best buyers are at Keeneland. So do you really believe it? Bounced off the last one at Keeneland, but won in the race at Churchill. So yeah, it's a win over Churchill, but that's his worst 2-turn race. Like I Further Ado to me is going to be the most interesting horse, and is going to end up making the back half of my Superfecta. After I've gone through this and we've lost 2 other horses that would have been in front of him, I end up with Further Ado in that 3rd and 4th spot.
I think he's an easy horse to handle in this Derby. I think you play him in all your multi-race wagers, and that's it, right? I mean, and if you love him, again, if you think he's great, go ahead and bet him to win. But I think he's an easy horse to cover because I think he either wins or he's off the board. I think he is that type of horse. Look, the Kentucky Derby, for as hard as we've thought it is, it can be very simple. If Further Ado comes out there and runs like he did at Keeneland last time, well, he is very, very, very likely to win. And so your handicapping's kind of done at that point, and you're going to love him. I'm with you. I'm skeptical he can do it 2 times in a row. I'm skeptical he can do it outside of Keeneland. I don't worry about the bounce so much with him. I do think he's going to show up. It's just the Keeneland thing is, they're just such outliers compared to the rest. And sometimes there are just horses for courses, and we see it. We see it. We've seen it at Saratoga a lot because it's kind of a quirky turf course up there, and horses will get there and they'll love it, and they'll go other places they don't run very well. That could be the case with Further Ado. We'll see, but I think you got to use him. I really do, and I've been higher on him than you all year. And I picked him, in Tampa, and got beat by your horse, the Puma, that day. Picked him in the Bluegrass, and he did make me look good there. So I've liked him for a long time. I've got him in second. I'm going to use him everywhere. I'm scared of him, no question about it.
If someone wins this race who we've not talked about, who is it?
Who have we not talked about first?
I'll go first since I
Okay.
have an answer. And it's the horse that I'm elevating up into the second spot in some of my superfectas here. That is the number 11 horse, Incredibolt. This is the horse that's kind of replacing Fulleffort for me, a horse that I don't think can win. But the longer I have kind of dove into Incredibolt and went back and watched that race at Colonial last time and went back and watched the Street Sense, there's a lot of talent here. I think the distance is fine. You've got Magladoro, Boltoro on top, Awesome Again on the bottom. This is a horse that's going to benefit from a fast pace. The draw is good. Doesn't need to be too far back, but can be if you need to and make a close. We know how I feel about Riley Mott. I think he is a very good trainer, 28% in graded stakes. Jaime Torres aboard is his go-to rider. This is the horse that's going to kind of I'm going to elevate in my tickets here to try and be able to blow this thing up, because I do think the more I watch those races, the more I think Incredibolt has an opportunity to run. I don't think is the win candidate, the Fulleffort was, but is a horse that with the current field, I think could run second at a big number and is going to be involved in my second, third, and fourth spots in the Super.
Yeah, look, we need Riley Mott to do what his father Bill Mott does a lot and get him to pop that big race on the big day. And Incredibolt needs to improve, but he did run very well last time out there in the Virginia Derby. One thing, though, that has been pointed out to me a couple times is he's never faced any of these horses that are in the Derby. He hasn't, in his preps, he never ran against another Derby horse that made it to the field. So that is a negative. Okay. Emerging market, would that count? I mean, we haven't talked about him yet on this show.
Emerging market counts.
Dude, I don't have him in the top spot. I really, really believe this is going to be one of the better horses, if not the best horse in the crop by the time it's all over. Now, I think you could say the same about Chief Wallaby, but this emerging market horse, man, I have been so impressed with him. He got into a dogfight in Tampa and he was able to win. And then he goes and just his second career start, goes out to a 1 3/16, runs in the Louisiana Derby. He made a move around that turn, Mike, that I don't think any other horse in this crop can make. Now, the bad news is he flattened out.
Yeah, he did not sustain said move.
He did not, I know, but that was just his first start around. First start going that long, 1 3/16. He did run a 1:70. That is a 2-turn race at Tampa, but first time really stretching out in distance. And if they can just kind of build the foundation into this horse enough, between now and between that Louisiana Derby and now, I think he's in with a shot. I don't have him anywhere because I just don't think this two starts to the Derby is going to work. But man, I think this horse has a ton of talent.
Emerging market has kind of fallen into the Further Ado spot for me now after these 2 scratches. The horse that I could totally see myself being able to get to, and I will kick myself if it runs third or fourth, but I'm not going to use. Flavian Pratt alone in the Kentucky Derby is a reason to use a horse. We've seen him give some of the best rides in the Kentucky Derby. I'm with you. I think it's too much too soon. I also wish emerging market drew somewhere else. That would have made it a lot easier for me to want to put this horse on my ticket. We talked about the pace and the horses that want to go. He is smashed in between Potente and Pavlovian. You've got 6 speed right to the outside of Pavlovian. You've got Further Ado to the outside of that. Chief Wallaby even has more speed if he wants to, I believe, than him. I don't like this draw at all. I think this screams you're going to get pinched. You're going to deal with a bunch of crap that you've never had to deal with before because of the races you've been in. I'm not sure where you sit. Do you want to be forward? I don't even know. I don't even know what trip you want if you are the connections in this race. It feels like you drop back, but all of a sudden, I'm saying a lot of horses are going to drop back. Who the heck is going to be in 8th then, if this is what everybody's plan is? It's when I can't find a trip. I know Flavian Pratt probably can. I just think it's too much too soon, and the post was the last nail in the coffin for me to not use emerging market.
It's fair, and I think there's positives and negatives to it, and I think you did point out all the negatives, and I kind of, the more I looked at it, kind of leaned towards what you're saying. The one positive I think of drawing out here, he is a very lightly raced horse, and maybe 14, 16, 17 just go, and he just kind of tucks behind him, and there's no horses to his outside all of a sudden, because the other ones are either going to go fly to the lead or drop back, and maybe he is sitting in the middle of the pack there, and it's him and Commandment right there in the absolute perfect spot. Like I threw in Commandment, they're going to be in the perfect spot, but I, we've said it all week, and the other guy over at Racing News, Jared Welch, he said, "Hey, just text me Taba throughout the week so I don't bet emerging market." And you do get flashbacks. Taba, I think, drew a little bit towards the outside as well, and he was a horse that he was a good horse coming in and did okay coming out of the Derby as well, but he was just in a different world. He got out there and it's like, wow, he's just out of his element, and you just worry about that with emerging market. But I'm telling you, the talent's there with this horse.
Pretty sure Taba drew the 12 because pretty sure I picked him that year. That was when Mike looks dumb for making certain picks. That would qualify on that one. It's the opposite of the Mage pick. Okay, I do want to bring up one more comment here, and this is from Dilly Daggers, comment on yesterday's Oaks episode.
Mm-hmm.
Just can't wait for tomorrow's episode, which would be today's now.
Right.
Am I crazy to just try box the 3 Florida Derby horses?
No, you're not.
Are they really just the best?
I think there's a world that they are.
Right?
I don't listen. It's a cheap bet. We saw it last year. Hey, Baeza, journalism, sovereignty. They were in the try in the Derby. They were in the try in the Belmont, right? And it was just like they were just the best. Now that is not this year really coming into it. I'm not that confident, but are you crazy to do that? I would say absolutely not.
Here's why I don't think it's crazy. Half length was between the 3 of them.
Yeah.
and we saw Commandment and Chief Wallaby be a nose apart the previous race. Like, yeah, they're all going to be right around the same. Like yep. You could easily say all 3 of them could be within a length and a half in this race, depending on trips.
Yep. And
that a length and a half, that's the try if they are. Like if one's first and the other 2 within a length and a half, that's probably your trifecta. And by the way, right now, 7-1, 7-1, 10-1. That'll pay. That'll do just fine. So I don't think you're crazy at all. I will probably have that exacta box and then play 12 over the 6 and the 9 in this race now as a cold exacta to try and just double up on the Chief Wallaby side because that is my top pick there. So yeah, I don't think that's crazy at all. I think that I believe Florida is the best circuit. I think you agree with me on that, and I wouldn't be shocked if they run 1, 2, 3. All right, last question for you here before we move on to our best bets on that card. Denon Bourbon, any interest? Like, are you at least getting a little of the tickle, a little of the tingles? Like, do I want to leave this horse off? Anything on Denon Bourbon?
I did a 2.5-hour podcast with John White, and this is his horse. He put number 7 Denon Bourbon on top in the spot, and he made an hour-long case why. And he made some points I disagree with, and he made some points I absolutely agree with, and I was on with him on that. It's just he's not for me, okay? And it's just not. I just can't get there to win. I am going to put him on pick 4s and pick 5s because I've got the budget for it. And I didn't want to do a 2-hour show with a legend and a guy I look up to, and he tells me to do it. And then I'm alive saying the pick 4 and 5, and Denon Bourbon wins. And I go, well, I am the biggest idiot in the world. So I didn't want to do that. I don't want to feel like that on Derby Day. So I did use him pick 4s and pick 5s. I buy into this is a really good horse. And Mike Beer said it, and I agree with him. He's very, very impressive. It's just the international horses. We tend to hear this a lot, and they just never come over and do it. And there's been some really good ones come over here, like Thunder Snow, who bucked out of the gate and didn't even run and went on to win 2 Dubai World Cups after that. Like Forever Young, who's one of the best horses we've seen in our last at least 10 years. He came over here and ran extremely well, but didn't win. I don't know that Denon Bourbon is that kind of caliber. John White does, and other people do as well. I'm more skeptical. Some interest, as in I'm going to play him pick 4 and 5s, but I'm not betting this horse to win.
I think it is more difficult to run your first race in North America, the Kentucky Derby, than it is to add blinkers. in the Kentucky Derby.
Totally.
I like it's
100%.
completely different world.
Yeah.
Completely different. I still will stand by my statement. When a Japanese horse wins this race, it's because they'll run a prep in the U.S. before they win the Kentucky Derby. You kind of need one. You just do. I think it will make a much better opportunity for that horse to be able to win. All right, that is the 152nd run for the Roses. Race number 12 on Saturday's card, the Kentucky Derby. Number 6 Commandment for Aaron, 6-1 on the morning line. Number 12, Chief Wallaby for me, 8-1 on the morning line. All right, before we get into the best bets, I want to take a minute and just say thank you to everybody who over the last 3-4 months has joined the community over at VSiN at the Track. We really appreciate all the comments, the good ones, the bad ones, the people that are making fun of my gray sweaters, and the people that are telling us we're doing a great job. We really appreciate everyone chiming in. We want to know who you're going to pick for this year's Kentucky Derby. Make sure you comment below. We'll be on again next Thursday. Win or lose, we'll be back to either celebrate or take the pie in the face. And we'd love to call out some of the people that were able to pick the Kentucky Derby winner. So make sure you tweet or comment below on the video at VSiN at the Track over on YouTube. Who do you like in the 152nd run for the Roses? All right, time for some best bets. I'll kick it off here. Race number 6 at Churchill Downs on the Saturday card. The Knicks Go. Restricted stakes for $200,000. Give me the number 4. BU, Todd Pletcher, John Velasquez, scratched out of the Thursday card to run in this spot, and I think it is a good decision. This is a horse that's been getting better. Last time out, ran a very good race in the Carter, ended up running 3rd in that race, lost to Bookham Dano and Point Doom. That's fine with me. I think this is a horse that takes another step forward. I think the pace sets up well for BU. First best bet of the card for me, race number 6, BU, 7-2 on the morning line.
Very, very, very good pick. I've liked that horse for a long time. I was in Saratoga when he debuted way back in the day. I liked him there, and he got beat by, I think, a neck by a stupid Lucas horse. But anyway, he's turned out to be a good one. I think that's a very good first pick for you.
All right, first best bet for you, a horse we've already talked about. Head back to race number 10 at Churchill, the Grade 1 Churchill Downs.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it, but it's like, man, I just really like this horse. I have to use him as a best bet. Number 6, Night Bridge for me there in the 10th at Churchill, and I have just been so impressed. You know, I tried to beat him a couple of races back with a horse, and he made me look like an idiot. He passed the horse I picked like he was tied to a pole. I'm just a big fan of him, and I think he's going to run well. I know it's a tougher competition here in this spot, but man, he's winning races like a horse that's a superstar. So, yeah, number 6, Night Bridge for me in the 10th.
This is going to be his coming out party if he's as good as he was in Florida. We'll see if he's able to translate that over to this Churchill Downs dirt. But if he rolls like he did there, he's stamping himself as one of, if not the best horse in that 6 to 1 mile range. So excited to see what Knightsbridge able to do there. Second best bet of the card for me, race number 9, the American Turf. We had Mike Beer talk about Black Hornet, 20-1, the number 6 horse in this race. I'm going to go with the number 4, Stark Contrast. I love this horse. This is one of those, and like I liked Fulleffort in the Derby. That tells you I'm going to like Stark Contrast in this spot. Ran 2nd in the Breeders' Cup Turf Juvenile last year to Gustad, who is a freaking monster. Came back, looked great in the Eddie Logan. I thought ran really well in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. First time going 1 mile and 1/8. Really first time in the 3-year-old season. So first off the bench there. Got beat by Fulleffort, who was just awesome in that race and rolling late. Now we get back to the turf, which is the best surface for Stark Contrast. To me, this is absolutely the horse to beat in this spot, and I really hope I get 4-1 on Saturday here, race number 9, the Grade 1 American Turf.
I thought your first pick was a good pick. I think this is a great pick. I am 1,000% with you here. I love Stark. Listen, I thought he ran fantastic last time out. He may have moved a little bit too early there in the Jeff Ruby. And look, it was a surface he'd never been on. I thought he ran great. I think he's a really nice horse. And our boy, Flavian Pratt, got aboard. I thought that was a very, very good sign as well. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one.
All right, last best bet of the card for you, race 13, right after the Kentucky Derby. Who you got?
This is the real degenerate race. When you stick around for race 13 and 14, you know you're a real fan. Can't wait for this one. I have been excited about this one ever since I saw him run last time. I'm going to go number 8, Gilded Bandit, for my second best bet here out of race 13. Okay, April 4th at Keeneland. That was Bluegrass Day. I was on the horse that finished second that day, Deep Flame. And Deep Flame ran extremely well and just got beat by Gilded Bandit, who ran just unbelievably well. They were 13 1/4 lengths clear of the third place horse that day, talking about Gilded Bandit and Deep Flame. And I circled Gilded Bandit because I thought, that horse that I picked ran as well as I thought he would, and he got beat, and he got beat pretty decisively. I'm ready to bet this horse. He's 3-1. I don't know. I think he'll end up being favored. Butane the 10's the favorite. I don't know about that one. But number 8, Gilded Bandit for me in the 13th at Churchill. I think this is a really, really nice horse who's going to take another step forward.
Yeah, I think Butane and Noble Affair both take some money. So maybe 5-2, somewhere in that range, 2-1 on Gilded Bandit, somewhere in there. Hulkamania, great name also in that race. All right, before we go, one final thing to address here. We did hit the Superfecta last year. We're going to try and hit it again this year. Kentucky Derby Superfecta here for me. $1 play, going to cost you $36. I'm going to put 9-11, so the Puma and Chief Wallaby in the first spot. 6, 9, 11, 12 in the second spot. So adding Commandment and Incredibolt there in the second position. Then 6, 9, 11, 12, 18 in third, and 6, 9, 11, 12, 18 in fourth. So 9, 12 with 6, 9, 11, 12 with 6, 9, 11, 12, 18 with 6, 9, 11, 12, 18 for $1. That will cost you $36. It will also pay more than last year, Aaron. So let's hope we get this one home.
Yeah, this is it's a good ticket. I can you do it 2 years in a row? I mean, it's going to be
Probably
incredible
not.
if you do.
Let's just be honest. Like,
I've been promising everybody you're going to do it.
yeah,
I just want you to know that.
I
I told
someone
Jensen
asked me
this morning, I said, dude, you get that updated ticket because he's money. He's going to hit it.
So someone asked me that like yesterday on VSiN, like, what are your realistic expectations? I'm like, just let Chief Wallaby win the race. And if the Super somehow hits, that's just the icing on. Just Chief Wallaby. That's all I'm asking for. I realize it's a pretty big ask.
He can do it.
All right. That's going to do it here for VSiN at the Track Kentucky Derby edition. Again, thank you everybody who tuned in over on YouTube. Listen to us in podcast form, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Win, lose, or draw, we'll be back next Thursday to talk everything about what happened in this Kentucky Derby and starting to look forward to the Preakness and the rest of the Triple Crown. For super producer Matt Deutsch, who behind the scenes working his tail off to make sure we're able to do all of these episodes and get them out to you, for Aaron Halterman, I am Mike Somich. Good luck in the Kentucky Derby.